everybody. Welcome to this week's beginning of the live streams. Here we go. I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up. They are doing a little bit of construction near me. There's nothing I can do about it. But it's not that bad. Just every once in a while you might hear like a drilling noise, but it'll end pretty quickly. So I apologize about that. All right, so we have a couple of things to go over at the very beginning of this stream. First off, before we get to the stories, I must gift memberships. It's the first stream of the week. I always gift 5 memberships to kick off the week to try and match your incredible generosity. Here we go. Boom, there we go. Enjoy. Thank you so much for all of you who are tuning in, members and non-members. Once things get a little bit less contentious with the Acolyte, we'll do another stream where subscribers can chat. Still dealing with some of that toxicity. Thank you, Aralysis. So on that note, the Acolyte episode 4 is tonight. This is the last of the 4 episodes that I got in advance. Hey, Mecky Powell, thank you. Thanks for upgrading. That's fantastic. But that's right. Tonight, episode 4 of the Acolyte drops. And I'm very excited for you to see it. It's the episode that really made me excited about the show. And my breakdown will be ready when the episode finishes. Because again, I was lucky enough to get the first 4 episodes in advance. Hey, Andrew and Paul, thank you both for gifting memberships. So that's very exciting. It's going to be good times tonight. I think this is a really fantastic episode, particularly the last couple of minutes, because it's not the big lightsaber battle fight episode. That's next week. That's the big, next week, episode 5, which I haven't seen, will clearly be all the big fighting. I don't know if it's going to include that lightsaber whip or not, but that's what's going to happen. There will be supposedly, I think, a big fight next week. This week is kind of like setting it up. Also, another thing I want to update you on is that the boys, I think they've kept the same drop time, unfortunately. Hey, Minaj, thank you for gifting a membership. I checked with them and I said, hey, are you maintaining the same spoiler embargo time? Because spoilers are embargoed until noon Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. Maybe it'll drop early on Wednesday night, but we'll see if they'll let us know if it's going to drop a little earlier. But it does seem it's going to remain. I'm shocked that it's going to do that as a midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time drop. I think that's a huge mistake. I wish that they would have, changed that, but oh well. I will not be getting any more Acolyte episodes in advance. That Disney doesn't send them out. But I've seen all the boys. I've seen the whole season already of the boys. And I get House of the Dragon a couple of days early. HBO still facilitates the best coverage of their content. So it's too bad that less people are watching it. All right, let's get to today's first story. Here we go. Boop. All right, we have a poll. I know you guys love a poll. So here it comes. Are you watching House of the Dragon Season 2? Your options are when it drops, then in the first 24 hours. Next will be not yet, and then waiting to binge, which by itself is really bad, because why don't you want to be in the conversation? I mean, if the show has no urgency, that's bad for the show. Once again, anyone who's watching can vote in the poll. You don't have to be a member to vote in the poll. So we're still waiting on the Acolyte and the boys numbers to come in. Disney Plus did release some numbers for the Acolyte. It did very well out of the gate the first night. Some of it might be hate watching, but Disney doesn't care as long as you're watching it. But it slowed down after that, so that it came in a little under Ahsoka. So I think Ahsoka had like 15 million views or something, and I think the Acolyte had like 11. I think, Adam Sphere, you're so negative on the Acolyte. I don't think it's going to drop, because I think a lot of people hate watched episode 3, and episode 4 is very strong, in my opinion. I think whatever problems you might have had with episode 3, episode 4 seems like a different show. So I'll be curious to see people's reaction to it, And I mean, in my opinion, I think it seems, I think it's very, very strong. It's the strongest of the 4 episodes. And then, of course, also we need to see what the boys' numbers are. No numbers have been released in that regard. I like to see Nielsen. Nielsen, to me, is the most important because I like not only seeing how the show does, but I like seeing how it stacks up against the competition. Because even if your numbers are not great, if you can at least be beating everybody else, well, then you're still king of the smaller pile. So that, to me, Nielsen is very, very important. Also, I'm curious about The Bear. The Bear drops at the end of the season, and of the 4 shows in June, The Acolyte, The Boys, House of the Dragon, and The Bear, The Bear is the only show that's a binge. So I wonder if that will be an advantage for it. And how long people are talking about it, though. People will talk about, these other shows for like months. Whereas The Bear will certainly generate a lot of chatter, but it'll probably be only for about a week or 2. And then everyone will move on to the next thing. But maybe that's the space that we're in. All right, so we'll let you vote just a little bit longer. So this morning, Samba TV put out a horrible headline, which I retweeted. It was weird to see some people who are Acolyte haters really defending House of the Dragon. It's like, so a lot of us like both, right? And some people don't like either. I don't think we should create House of the Dragon and Acolyte teams. But anyway, Samba TV said that the show had dropped 50%, right? And it was like, oh man, it was like, what the heck? So and I was like, well, I wonder why HBO hasn't released any viewership numbers. Viewership numbers usually come out Monday or Tuesday because, they want to have the first 24 hours. So, sure enough, HBO did release, some actual official numbers. And it wasn't 50% bad, but it was still down. It was down 22% is the reality. Because, Samba is not factoring in the HBO numbers, HBO proper, people who still pay for the cable. That's funny. Let's do that poll. Let me see. Let's see here. End poll. Because, this stuff's expensive. That's one of the reasons. Oh, I forgot to load that. I'll do that in a second. All right, so 33% of you haven't watched it yet. What the? 32% of you watch it when it drops. I remember this wonderful, see, there it is. Sorry about that. I remember this wonderful video that had like all the TVs on in an apartment building set. They were all synchronized because everybody was watching Game of Thrones on a Sunday night. It was beautiful. But only now 33% of you feel that you need to do that. It'll just be a second, sorry. All right, so then, so only 32% of you watch it when it drops. 23% of you watch it in the first 24 hours. So that's good. But then just 9% of you are waiting to binge. Well, that's good at least, But that means that about a little over 50% of you have watched it already. But that's, just 50% of you. I think that, back in the day, a lot more people would have, would be watching it when it dropped. All right, so let me ask you, let me do the poll and say, what do you watch? What service? How do you watch? How do or would you watch House of the Dragon? On HBO cable? On HBO, so there's HBO, right? Then there's Max, the streaming service. And then I guess piracy. Oof. And then not watching. Okay. We're going to go through all the reasons. All right. So the reality is that the first House of the Dragon episode for season 1 had about 10 million views in the first 24 hours across HBO and Max. Whereas this season 2 debut episode only had 7.8 million. So, it's still up there, but it's down. It's down 22%. Although, again, some of you might be pirating it. And so the viewership, remember, Game of Thrones was the most pirated show in history. So that's certainly, I'm sure, a factor to some degree. Although the ratings were still excellent for Game of Thrones, so piracy didn't hurt it. I did feel that the first episode was a wee bit on the boring side until the end. I got episode 2 this morning. I would say it follows a similar structure. I think there's like a lot of dramatic things happening, but it is like one of those things where it's like, drama, big explosive ending. I liked the ending of episode 2 better than the ending of episode 1. So we'll see. We'll see if people start to, some people said, oh, it's just getting started, Grace. It's ramping up. So let's see. Now, the first season, of course, it had Game of Thrones hype. Like, could they possibly replicate the quality of that first show? But don't forget, it was coming off of the worst season. I mean, people swore off the show. Season 8 was so bad. And then also, it should be able to retain its viewership. It ended very strong. I thought House of the Dragon, it did get better as it went along. The ending of season 1 was fantastic. The Game of Thrones series finale, just for comparison, back in 2019, before a little thing called the pandemic hit us, that pulled in 19.3 million viewers. So you can just see how much things have changed. To go from basically, that is a 50% drop in terms of who's watching the show. Now, of course, a series finale is a very different thing. And of course, is going to draw in major viewership for a show that lasted for 8 seasons. But, that's still, it's a significant drop. But, you're seeing that across the business, not only with movies, but now it seems streaming is also having a little bit of a malaise issue. The Tonys was even down. The Tonys has never set the world on fire in terms of viewership, but it was down 15%, which is kind of close to 22%, interestingly enough. All right, so let's go into the reasons. I asked you earlier why you thought it might be, so I've combined some of your reasons with some of my reasons. Jason says, I felt that there wasn't very much hype leading into the season. Yeah, I don't think the ad campaign was particularly good. So hold on, I forgot to add it, so let me just get it right now. Get excited, here it comes. All right, look at this, we're gonna discuss it. Ooh, baby. Let me get my arrow so you know where we are. Boo, 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 boo. Did I accidentally delete my arrow? I did. Hold on. I can't believe it. Hold music. Do 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 do. Okay. All right, here are the reasons, and I have my follow-up notes with them as well. All right, I'm excited to hear you guys share your thoughts below as well. Not below, to the side, wherever it is. All right. So the first one is lack of advertising. So I think the advertising campaign for this show, season 1, was too digitally focused. They were on social media so much, and it's like, what about the real world, man? Like, for instance, one of the things they did at the last minute, thank you, Julio, was that they put up the banners of how, are you on Team Black or Team Green? And they put up these banners, and they were putting them up in the digital world. They're like, look at the Brooklyn Bridge. It's declared itself for Team Black or whatever. And you're like, did they actually? When I first saw that, I was like, wow, did you guys actually put that up on the Brooklyn Bridge? How would you get permission for that? And they didn't. They did it digitally. So that's right. The infamous Kiki is saying no billboards. That's right. They didn't really have any billboards. Look at you guys being Team Green. What the heck? I'm not particularly either team right now, to be honest with you. Did I thank Julio for the memberships? I think I did. Thank you, Julio. So I think they had I think maybe that's one of the problems with people being like, oh, look what AI can do. And everybody's like, but it's not real. I'm Team Dragon. That's right, Joey. Me too. Team Dragon. So yeah, all of this stuff was digital. They didn't actually, except for that really lame Vagar balloon that they put at the top of the Empire State Building. They were like, look at Vagar. He's landed on the Empire State Building. Or she is. She's landed on the Empire State Building. And it was just like Vagar's little claw on the top of the Empire State Building. And you were like, man, that dragon's supposed to be the size of the Empire State Building. I guess it was a reference to King Kong who climbed the Empire State Building, the biggest ape and the biggest dragon. But yeah, I agree with J.A. It just looked so bad. You were like, who approved this? It looks awful. I can't even tell what I'm looking at. It was bad. Juan, you didn't think it was an actual dragon. And then the banners weren't real, but the dragon was if it was an AI balloon, that's something they should have done AI. to show you how Vagar would have landed on the Empire State Building and probably crumpled it because Vagar's so big. Travis says, let's say, what did you do this morning, Grace? Too much time between seasons. We're not there yet, Travis, but I appreciate that. That's, I think that's certainly a reason, as you can see. All right, so yeah, lack of advertising. So I think that was a really big problem. And not enough physical advertisements, not enough posters, not enough billboards. Just plaster that stuff on the side of a bus, man. All right. Then next up, there's just too much damn content. June, we thought it would be exciting that all these shows were debuting at the same time in the same month. Turns out it was a really bad idea. Because, The Acolyte, The Boys, House of the Dragon, and they're all weekly drops. So instead of them each owning a weekend, people have to find time in their schedule. And they all have these crazy drop times. The Acolyte and House of the Dragon at least both drop at 9 p.m. on their respective days. And I feel that's better. I think The Boys really messed up with their changing their drop time. I think their drop time that they had was excellent. So then also I think there's just too much. See, Platinum Diva says, I don't have the time. There's just too much content that's out. And people get into one show and then they're like, well, let me finish this. Or I just want to focus on this show right now. And then they're like, I'll get to that later then. And then it takes too long. Like, for instance, another show that I'm watching that's fantastic. Well, two. I have screeners. I have screeners for both, actually. I have screeners for Presumed Innocent. So last night I stayed up way too late because I was like, it gets really good as it goes on. So I went all the way through. They didn't give press the last episode in advance. So I've watched all the way through episode 7 on Presumed Innocent. And I was like, that's pretty good. And then also Clipped on Hulu. Clipped, I'm watching that weekly because I'm watching it with other people, so I want to be able to talk to them about it. Like, I think that's how I might do Only Murders in the Building this time, because sometimes you have like a group of friends, and like often I can't participate in their like watch-alongs because I've already seen the show. So for smaller shows that people aren't really paying attention to online too much, that's how I handle it. So Clipped, I'm watching. Oh, Adam's Fear. Clipped is the true story of what happened with the LA Clippers with Donald Sterling and the tape that leaked. And I think it's a really phenomenal show. It's on Hulu. And they just dropped their 4th episode today. So, I mean, like, that's all going on too. And it's just hard to you have to, either you're switching between shows. It's just really hard. And so I think there's just too much. And because the audience is so fractured, I think that nobody's on the same page. So Lisa's watching Clipped. Not everybody's on the same page anymore. It used to be on Sundays we watch House of the Dragon, right? And on, this day we watch this, and this day we watch this. And that's just not what they're doing. Jason says, to deal with the time between seasons, I would have released season 1 a month before for no charge. Nah, maybe, but then I don't know. Because I don't know if people would have had time to watch that, to be honest with you. Let me close the poll. How would you watch it? 46% of you have Max. 27% of you are not watching. 17% of you have piracy. I've subscribed to piracy. I don't know if those sites charge anything. Maybe they charge a smaller fee. I'm not sure. Is piracy like free? How do they make their money? Or are they just anarchists? As Alfred likes to say, they just like to watch the world burn. And then only 8% of you still subscribe to HBO. That's very interesting. That piracy number is big. It's free? Oh, they have ads? There's ads? Piracy is ads? Oh, some of you pay for it. Who buys an ad on piracy? Why doesn't the government get the people who are buying the ads? And be like, you're advertising on stolen content. That's interesting. Okay. All right. I can't believe it's free. My goodness. All right. So back to the reasons. All right. Next up, the next one is Father's Day. Ain't nobody watching House of the Dragon on Father's Day if they you can't watch that with your kids and your family. You're not going to all sit down and watch that. So I think that might have been a little bit of an issue. I don't think it was huge. Some of you said also maybe Inside Out too, but this is Sunday night already. You're probably home. So I don't think this is a huge reason, but it might have been a little bit. A lot of dads might have been like, I got to watch it later. All right. Then next up, This one to me is very interesting. HBO Sunday night lead-ins. They had 2 really bad shows back to back that nobody watched. I'm curious if you've even heard of these shows or remember them. Do you remember Kate Winslet had The Regime on Sunday nights? And then they went into The Sympathizer with Robert Downey Jr. Nobody watched those shows. Nobody certainly talked about them. And I think really it's very scary for HBO. They allowed people to break their Sunday night habit of watching HBO at 9 p.m. Now, the whole point was is they were supposed to keep people locked in. Every Sunday at 9 o'clock, you watch HBO, whatever they might be airing at that time. It was a great spot, and you would jump from The Last of Us, Mayor of Easton, House of the Dragon, Larry David, Curb Your Enthusiasm. You know, Sunday nights, HBO always had something for you to watch. True Detective, you know, for a while there, they also had so much content. Mondays, The Gilded Age. I hope people start watching The Gilded Age, man. They're getting ready to start filming season 3. So I think that's kind of part of a problem there. Joe says people have lost faith in Disney and HBO. Oh, we'll talk about that when we get to toxic discussions. Hey, Seth. Oh, yes, right. White Lotus, Succession, Euphoria. See, you guys, you're right. These are all very strong shows. I think, you know, if House of the Dragon had maybe followed one of these, it would maybe be in a little bit of a better position. But I think enough people have gotten out of the habit of watching HBO on Sunday nights, and that's a real problem for the service. All right, then next up, some of you feel very vehemently about this. Too long between seasons. So I checked, and on Game of Thrones, HBO's Game of Thrones, all 7 seasons were a year apart. There was a 2-year break between season 7 and season 8, but come on, that was the final season. Of course, everybody was going to come back for that. So I think that that's kind of, you know, one thing, right? So, you know, so I think, yeah, I mean, getting a show out, I think a lot, oh, sorry, I got distracted by something, one of your comments. All right, so I think that, of course, Game of Thrones impressively was able to get a new season out every year. I think obviously the pandemic caused some problems in terms of production, and they said they're going to start filming House of the Dragon season 3 this year. You know, Matt Smith's been telling everybody we're going to get right into it. And, you know, this lull has hurt a lot of shows. Loki to a degree, I don't really see it. I thought Loki season 2 did okay. I know it definitely hurt Invincible. Invincible was a really big problem. And then The Boys, I think also maybe is suffering from too long of a break. You know, I think that The Boys is suffering more from the political. It's the most political it's ever been, and I think that they've lost a significant amount of viewership because of that. But I think Invincible, it was just purely, it just took too long, and a lot of people just forgot, and they're like, I don't remember the previous show, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Arcane, yeah, you guys are mentioning Arcane, but we don't know. We don't know how Arcane season 2 is going to do. I think the odds are probably stacked against it because it's been so long, but we don't know for sure yet. But we'll see. All right, then the next thing is lack of stars. I do feel this is an issue. With Game of Thrones, there were a ton of stars right out of the gate. Peter Dinklage, everyone fell in love with him right away. But then you also had Cersei, Jaime, right? All the Stark kids, Daenerys, instant fan favorite. And then even as the show went along, I don't think Matt Smith is a big star, Danny. I think that he's, of course, one of the Doctor Who's, but I think that he's been in a lot of not particularly well-received stuff, let's say, to be diplomatic about it, and I just don't think he has the same cachet. But as the show went on, Brienne became extremely popular, Tormund. You know, I just think that, you know, like, for instance, I'm seeing all those House of the Dragon, like, content online where they're interviewing the stars, and they're like, oh, let's have them play with puppies and all that stuff. And you're like, I don't know if how people are interested in, you know, the actors. And so I think that is a problem for the show. There's no breakout star on House of the Dragon. I guess Matt Smith is the biggest name for sure, Resident Justice. But as Resident Justice is saying, Matt Smith is the biggest name the show has, and I love Matt Smith, but he isn't a huge draw. He's a name, but not on the level of Peter Dinklage or Sean Bean. I just don't think he's a huge draw in the role. Maybe the problem is that they had to switch out the cast too much, you know? I mean, like, the guy Ty says, what about Millie Alcock? Well, she's not on that show anymore. Adam Sphere says, you think she was the breakout star? I mean, I'm sure James Gunn in the Supergirl movie sure hoped that she was. Tenerife, people loved Viserys, and I miss him. But, obviously he passed away at the end of the last season, so he's not in season 2. So, yeah, I think they have a little bit of a problem in the lack of stars. Okay. T, you might not think much of Kit Harington, and he certainly hasn't been able to get a career outside of Game of Thrones, but Jon Snow was extremely popular, even if it was to make fun of him. All right. Then the next thing is streaming prices and the economy. Now, unfortunately, this might have been a fatal decision. Right before House of the Dragon Season 2 started, they raised the price of Max. They were like, we know you want to watch House of the Dragon. Give us more money. And you're like, what? So that's one issue, I think, that they raised the prices. Although, would any of you really unsubscribe? Look, My Way said they immediately canceled. So that's interesting. Yeah, so it seems that, some people might have been like, peace out. Or our 17% who were pirating. Then, even beyond raising the price for the service, people are paying for so many services now. People maybe getting tired of churning. Churn relies on motivation. Like, I really want to watch this show. I'm going to make the effort to go back in and reactivate my account or sign up. And that's a lot of work, and people are busy. And that's also what's talking about, well, again, maybe it's driving people to piracy. But then also there's the economy overall. A number of you tweeted back to me today when I asked this morning about why maybe this show wasn't doing as well this season, is that you said you were too busy or you were tired because you were working so hard, or you were worried, maybe or worried about your economic situation. And I think that's very reasonable, and I think it's something that needs to be factored in. So you're like, you just need a break. There's only so many hours in the day to watch content, and you're checking out. But I think that leads to the next one, toxic discussions. If you're having a really tough time in terms of your economic situation, there's two things that can sometimes happen. Well, there's three things. Ideally, for the entertainment studios, is that you need a break, right? So you really want to have something to take your mind off of it, and you watch their content. So that's what they would like to happen, and what has usually happened in the past. But there's a new thing that might be taking place where people are like, they're having such a rough time, they just want escapism. And the toxic discussions that are, overtaking the entertainment space, are just people don't want to do it. Maybe that's the reason that old school content is doing so well. Not only can you relax, but there's no outside noise. No one's talking about it. No one's going to be like, did you see what happened on Suits? Right? It made me very angry. Even people are a little upset with stars these days. And so none of the stars, I'm glad you think it's a good point, Adam Sphere, because I just thought of this while I was talking to you. Thanks, Michaela. I think that and because I think about it, because that's one of the reasons that sometimes I watch this stuff, because I can just check out. That's why I like Clipped and Presumed Innocent, because no one's talking about them, or Hacks. I can just turn my brain off. I'm not covering them for work, and I can just chill and just veg out. And I think some people are upset with Hollywood. They don't like actors and they don't like the talent. But the people who are on these older shows aren't current. So they're almost you're not thinking about them. You're not like, oh yes, I just saw them on social media and I didn't like this thing they said, or I don't like the way that they flaunted what they had. And so I think that might be a big issue. That's fascinating. I think that's one of the big things. Because we're looking at Nielsen and we're like, why are these old shows doing so well? And I think that might be one of the reasons. I'm so happy to see all the Hacks love. It's such a good show. All right. And then also, I think the third thing that happens is that you get angry. You get angry about your current situation. And then you get sucked into the current echo chambers of hate that used to just be in the news space, the political news and the current events. But now there is this kind of space in the entertainment area. So I think, either you're angry and you're that's all, some people have, I don't know if you've seen this, but some people keep Fox News on just all day long. And I think that's unfortunate because it just feeds into the hate and it injects that into their life. They're just angry and upset all day. And I think that you're seeing that a little bit in the entertainment space. Instead of watching these shows, some people would rather just hate on them, right? Like, if you don't like a show, you ideally should just turn it off and go do something else. And, by the way, Lloyd Lester, you said X is just the worst. Somebody else pointed this out, and they said X is so toxic these days, a lot of people, they think have maybe gotten off the service. And that's fascinating to me because, they decided to lean into digital advertising. So they're just advertising to the haters, right? And then also, for some reason, and it's also unfortunate, there's certain groups who are really upset with any female-led content these days, even if it's well made. And so I wonder if that's also hurting House of the Dragon because the women are used to promote the show. I saw them talking about the new Lord of the Rings animated movie. And it was so annoying because everybody in the comments didn't realize that it was an animated movie and not a show. So they were like, this show is going to fail. And you guys are so out of touch and just swallowing whatever is fed to you that you don't even, and it's being given to you, the information, you're being so poorly informed that you don't even realize what you're actually talking about. But the new Lord of the Rings animated movie is entirely, it's very much a female-led. Not only does it have a female lead, but she's going to be teaming up with a group of all-female warriors, kind of like the Themyscira and stuff like that. CM says Emma D'Arcy is non-binary in real life, which shouldn't be an issue, but may be for some. It might. Again, I feel, it's unfortunate to see that be an issue for anybody. But I think that's not really on the radar. I've seen a couple of the hate circles try to embrace House of the Dragon because they can't hate on everything, I guess. And I wonder how that's going for them because as I said, I don't think season 2 is quite up to the standards of season 1, at least not yet. But yeah, so I think that the toxicity is kind of taking over the space. And that's also, I think, it's problematic for entertainment. It's a problem. And I wonder if it maybe is driving away a little bit of viewership, because maybe people are just, they'd rather, as I said again, just hate on stuff. All right, so let me get rid of the arrow. Any questions or comments about this story before we go on to the next two? Adam Sphere says cynical entertainment leads to cynical audiences. I don't see any cynical entertainment. I think that you could argue that the interviews for The Acolyte were cynical. I would agree with that. But I don't think the show itself is cynical. I don't pay attention to those interviews because they are stupid and they're annoying, and I just, I don't want them in my space. I just focus on the show itself. I went into The Acolyte knowing absolutely nothing about it. I thought I had very low expectations because I thought the trailers had been so poor. And then I was like, all right, let's see this thing. And then I was like, oh, this is fun. And again, episode 4 is the one that sold me. Dad Boy says, do you think the Inside Out 2 has been the massive success for 2024, even with Disney drama and most other content like House of the Dragon has been? Why do you think that is? I think that Inside Out 2 is just, again, maybe it has that old school quality, like the old school content. I think that might be part of why, you can just, and again, I think people just wanted to go to the movies and have a good time. And Inside Out 2 delivered that. Very colorful film. It's fun. It's actually, I think, very solid, really beautifully animated. And I think people just hadn't been going to the movies, as we know from the box office. And they're like, oh, here's a reason to go. And I think a lot of people probably won't go again until Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine. Which is interesting because I told you back in the day, before the pandemic and all this Disney drama came about, people would typically see, most audiences would see about one movie a month in theaters. And it was almost always the Disney release. And yet that seems to still be the case, even with people hating on the studio. Dwight says, would be great if you could acknowledge that toxicity isn't just from the right. Dwight. I did just acknowledge that. I did say that I felt that the Star Wars interviews were aggressive, needlessly so, and that I do not think that they're taking a helpful approach, and I think that they're undermining their own content. And that I think if they hadn't set the table in that way, maybe people wouldn't necessarily be hating on The Acolyte as much as they are. But also, I'm seeing a lot of misinformation about The Acolyte. I'm seeing a lot of people say certain elements of the show and scenes are things that they're not. Just straight up, not even an issue of interpretation. Just a straight up, that's not what happens in that scene. Like I saw some people try to say that the thread, they were trying to call the force the thread. And I was like, no, they're not. The thread, talking about pulling the thread, is that when you pull I took it as this, is that when you pull a thread, it often like pulls a bunch of fabric with it or other threads. And so pulling a thread has like not just cause and effect, but cause and multiple effects. But the point is it's an action. It's a deliberate action. And if you feel it's important to do that, well, then you do. Consequences be damned. Although that ended up really not being good for them. They pulled the thread and it created a horrible knot. Well, we'll see what the ratings are. But that's what I think they were talking about, not the force. Let's see here. Lord Baratheon says, do you think trolls won't attack Deadpool since the two leads? I don't know. I haven't seen the movie, so I can't comment on that. Joe says, I think we're getting to the peak of toxic, so it's going to be changing soon. I don't know. It has not gone away in the political space. This just might be the new normal. All right, yeah, we're getting off track. I agree with you guys. I agree with Skunk Man. We're getting into talking to the acolytes. Let's move on to the next story. As Ace just said, let's boop it. Let's boop it out of here, baby. Okay, hold on. Story number 2. Boop. Oh, look at Will Smith. Will Smith has just signed a new deal, okay? So, because he's coming off of the strength of Bad Boys 4, which we talked about just yesterday on Movie Math. It's passed 100 million domestic in just 1 week, or 2 weekends, and then 200 million global. But not only that, not only is it doing so well by itself, but now it's pushed the Bad Boys franchise as a whole into being a billion-dollar franchise. What does that mean? That means that all of the movies in the franchise have grossed over $1 billion. And that's true. I double-checked it. I was like, wow, is that true? And it is true. Although, of course, the last entry made about $450 million. So, that's already halfway to $1 billion. So the other 3 movies have certainly made up the rest of the $1 billion. So that's really impressive. Now, of course, Will Smith had always had other deals in place that have not gone away. They've just been put on pause. Because remember, Hollywood is driven always by money. How can they make money, and then how can they no longer make money? That will always drive their decisions. If you want to understand how Hollywood works, that's how. Whenever something seems like they're doing it for the right reasons, it's really because the audience has turned on it, and therefore they can't make any money off of it. Remember, they only took diversity to be important, when they started to make money off of it. And they only thought it was important to, there's just example after example after example. All right, so he has deals like Aladdin 2, Hancock 2. These are all supposed to be coming along, but they were all put on pause. I Am Legend 2 is the only one that seems like it'll be moving forward relatively soon. But then he just signed a new deal. So that's a very good sign for his, it's a very good sign for his career. He signed it with Sony, which of course distributes Bad Boys. So they're like, let's stay in business with this guy. And again, as I told you on Movie Math, as a business person, I would say he's making money as long as we keep our budgets in a good place, although this movie's going to be expensive. I feel good about it. Although this could have a really good cast. This is going to be an ensemble movie. Now that I think about it, this could be really strong. All right, so let me tell you. All right, so he's teaming up with Sony and also Escape Artists, where he's made several movies with this production company in the past. So he has a good relationship with both these groups. Now, it's a book called Influx by Daniel Suarez, and the quote on that cover from a review is, "The new Michael Crichton." And you're like, wow, that's a great quote. I love Michael Crichton. Michael Crichton had really good ideas. That is a novel. That's the novel Influx, which this is based on. And Michael Crichton had really good ideas, really big, bold setups that made for some great movies, not just Jurassic Park, but I think that's probably his most famous. Maybe Twister, too, right? Isn't that a Michael Crichton? All right, so they're going to rename it, though. They're calling it Resistor. Resistor! I love it. Okay, so let me tell you what it's about. So I believe Will Smith will be playing a scientist who comes up with this device that plays with gravity. And he's like, oh, it's I always mispronounce Michael Crichton. So it's Crichton? Michael Crichton? All right, thank you. Thank you, Dory Does Voices. All right, so back to this story. Will Smith is a scientist. He's invented a way to play with gravity. And he goes, oh boy, I'm going to help society. But then who shows up? But the Bureau of Technology Control, who feels that the public just can't handle this technology. Oh, Dory is trolling? I did get the Michael Crichton correct? Thank you. I thought I got it right. Dory, that's so unusual. I think Dory is not trolling. I think Dory just is mistaken because Dory's a very nice person. Okay, so anyway, the Bureau of Technology Control shows up and says, we can't have the general public have access to this technology, so we're going to only have it for ourselves. Now, this is very funny to me because it sounds to me like, like a conspiracy theory from like tech people who are like, yeah, that's right, we secretly rule the world, man, you're just not ready for us. All right, is it on Netflix? That's pretty funny, Leo. No, Sony's going to make it, but it does kind of sound a little bit like a Netflix movie so far. But also, I don't know if you saw this headline that was going around today on X that Elon Musk is being sued because when he's working on that neurochip, a scientist who was working for him in the lab said that she was forced to work around monkeys that had an STD and that one of them scratched her. And again, she's pregnant and it put her at risk. So that's, Hollywood makes it seem all glamorous, but in reality, you're just getting, scratched by STD infected monkeys. You're like, what the heck? All right. So that's that Elon Musk headline. All right, so Will Smith gets apprehended, the scientist gets apprehended and sent to a high-tech prison that's full of multiple scientists, okay, that have all had their technology confiscated and they're all stuck in prison. And they decide that they're all going to escape and expose the Bureau, which is using their advanced technology and inventions. So that sounds pretty good. I'd be like, all right, who are the other scientists and who runs the Bureau of Technology Control? I mean, that sounds like not bad to me. I mean, it sounds kind of Michael Crichton-y, to be honest with you. I'm like, I like it. So I'm like, okay, if you can get a couple of good scientists in here and you make sure it doesn't seem like Expendables, the science version, that's the only thing I'd be really nervous about. I think that kind of works for me. Now, of course, Will Smith has a lot of experience in this genre, from Men in Black to iRobot to even Gemini Man. Jeff Goldblum, Mika, maybe he could run the Bureau. I don't know, Jeff. I like Jeff Goldblum quite a bit, but I think that Marvel has overexposed him a little bit. But it reminds me very much so of Minority Report, the Steven Spielberg, Tom Cruise movie, which I actually rewatched about a year or so ago, and I preferred it more than when I saw it originally. So I think it sounds like not a bad project. I think it gives hope to other talent that's been, I know you guys don't feel that Will Smith was ever canceled, but I do think, like if you look at his Hot Ones episode that came out, just last week or 2 weeks ago, it is underperforming for what it should for a global star like Will Smith. Shane Gillis beat him out on views on Hot Ones, and that came out after Will Smith, so I was surprised. The Polka Dot Man actor, Jason Ackers, I don't know, he feels a little overexposed too. I would want people that normally wouldn't be in a project like this and see if I can get some really interesting group together. Leo, it's funny you say algorithms because I forgot to mention this in my House of the Dragon coverage. Somebody said that a lot of people are watching, and speaking of the evils of technology, somebody said that more people are watching TikTok and YouTube and Instagram and are staying on X. But I believe that there are algorithms in there that keep you on the services. So it might not even be your choice to spend so much time on these services, but you're being programmed to. They're rewriting your brain to want to watch to stay on their platforms rather than watching television or going to the movies. That to me is fascinating. So I think that's I'm very curious to see, if that's true or not. If that ever, I think that the state of New York is challenging YouTube on algorithms for anyone who's a kid under 18. And so I just am like, I'm really interested to see if that's the case. But so Hollywood might be like, well, we're just advertising. We didn't think of putting something in your brain to make you watch it more. I guess there's subliminal advertising. But yeah, maybe Will Smith, a lot of you didn't like some of the comparisons, as to who he might be like. Maybe he's a little bit like Robert Downey Jr. after his, he was arrested and had, actually did some jail time. Maybe it's more of a situation like that. And Robert Downey Jr. was able to come back as well. But yeah, so how does this movie sound to you? Does anybody have any questions or comments about this? Jason, you say Shane Gillis is crazy famous right now, but ain't nobody watching his Netflix show. That thing tanked. Marcello, I can see you're very against Will Smith, but you seem to be alone in that sentiment, or, not a lot of company there. And you're certainly, I think that's a valid point, but I think people are clearly willing to pay to see Will Smith. Even people I've talked to had like the same rule they had for James Gunn. When James Gunn had those horrible tweets, my friend was like, I'm never going to see their work again unless it looks really good. And then I was like, I think that's how most people are. They're like, they're going to do what's best for them to a large degree. For those of you who don't know who Shane Gillis is, he's a conservative comedian. He was that guy who got fired from Saturday Night Live. He is still a comedian, Kay Walton. He's doing quite well with his Netflix specials and stuff like that. Mistorian feels that even Robert Downey Jr. isn't a fair comparison. I think going up on stage at a work event and slapping a colleague, physically getting violent with them in a televised, like a lot of times the things that we hear about, we haven't seen, and they seem like someone's private business. You're like, I don't know for sure if they did it. That's for like the courts to decide. How would we ever get to the bottom of it? But here you're like, no, I was there. I saw it. It was televised around the world, And so I think that's a big part of that's something that makes it different than other things that you might be thinking of. Like if Will Smith had slapped Chris Rock at a private party, it'd be a totally different situation. Oh, Jason says it's because Shane Gillis' Netflix show sucks. That's very convenient, Jason Ackers. Let's see. Cool Hive wants to point out that it wasn't just the slap, it was his behavior the entire night and the days following. That's true. He was dancing at the after parties. He seemed to be totally over it. I don't believe he didn't apologize for a few days. I think those certainly were factors as well. Bye, Andrew. T says, I don't know. What about Christian Bale or Tom Cruise yelling at a coworker? Well, that's also different because, obviously it's not ideal. But, when you cross the line to physical, it's a big problem. That's why there's such a thing as assault and battery. The police did offer to arrest Will Smith, but Chris Rock refused to press charges. But you can't arrest someone for yelling at you, because it's not at the same level. And then also Christian Bale and Tom Cruise were, trying to protect their productions. Whereas, that was not the same thing. Blair Wraith wants Men in Black 4. Oh, look at everybody wants to fast forward. Okay, let's go to the next story. Okay. Story number 3. This is an interesting one. Boom, baby. So Netflix is usually just a streaming service. All the other studios have theme parks, or they have theme park relationships where you can experience their big brands, out in the world, right? There's Disney, Universal. Warner Brothers has some experiences in Dubai and at Universal Studios. So, there's different things that, you can do. Netflix, though, tends to just be a streaming service. However, they have had some traveling pop-up live experiences over the years. And for instance, I went to the Stranger Things one, maybe about 2 years or so or whatever, whenever the last season was coming out. Fantastic experience. It was like in a Brooklyn warehouse. They did a wonderful job with it. It was really like going to a theme park. However, instead of just a pop-up, they're becoming more fixed locations outside of the theme parks for these kind of experiences. Some of them are popping up in Vegas. We've talked about the Universal Horror complex that's being built there, and then also the John Wick experience that they're doing. So that's very cool and exciting. But instead of Vegas, Netflix is opening 2 places. Here's the concept art for it. Let me show you. There it is. Ooh, so beautiful. This is a pop-up experience. It's not a theater. This is a pop-up experience, and there'll be 2 of them next year. They're going to be in Dallas, and then also the King of Prussia, which is in Pennsylvania. I believe near Pittsburgh, actually. And these are going to be at 2 malls. And, by the way, Universal also is expanding to Texas with a family theme park for younger kids. But these are not permanent. They're not going to be around forever, but they're going to be probably around for a couple of months or maybe even the whole year. It looks like a prison, Britt. That's funny. What this is you know what it actually is, which is fascinating to me. These are abandoned department stores, which they've not been able to rent out. So Netflix says, "I'll take that old Sears," and they're going to go in there and they're going to repurpose it and create their own experience. So that to me is really, really interesting. Because there are a lot of vacant, department stores across the country. And so that's a really smart way to use that space. And it's very clever for malls to think outside the box. Don't be surprised if other malls start having the same idea. They're like, I can't rent this space. Do you want to rent it and do some kind of an experience in it? And you're like, yeah, I would actually. So what can you do in here? Look, you go into a red envelope, even though they don't even have red envelopes anymore. You still walk into a red envelope. And this is going to be an interactive experience. Now, not only can you take pictures to post on social media, please do, but you can also buy merchandise and have food. They're going to have food for you to get. Now, when I did the Stranger Things experience, I was able to do all those things. I took tons of pictures. After I went through the ride, the attraction, it was a walkthrough, but they had actors and they had visual effects. They had a very good 3D effect. In fact, you had to put glasses on for the big finale. Looked fantastic. And they had all the stars involved, which was great. They weren't there in person, but it felt like they were because of the 3D. I'll tell you which shows are involved in a moment, although some of you are already guessing them. But then when I did the Stranger Things, afterwards they had a little section where you could get some food, 80s food. It was fantastic. You get some merch. I got a fantastic Stranger Things t-shirt. And it was really just a very nice time. And this was on a smaller scale. This wasn't an entire thing like this. So they're saying that what you're going to do in 2025 is this is going to involve a Bridgerton section, Money Heist, which I think is really interesting because it's not an English language show, but yet they feel it's strong enough they can still do it in Dallas and King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, Stranger Things, and then also Squid Game. And you know what all those shows have in common? Probably 2025 releases. So they're really going to be wanting to promote these things to get you excited about the new season. I think it's interesting that it's going to be again in Dallas and the King of Prussia. Part of me is like, how long would it take for me to go from New York City to the King of Prussia? Let me see how long it would take for me to get there. Hold on. King of Prussia Mall. Here it is. How do I get here? How long would it take to walk? It says it's only a 3-hour train ride, and I could drive it in 2 hours and 17 minutes. It's not near Pittsburgh. It's near Philadelphia. Oh, maybe I'll go to this. Now I feel I should go. Before I was like, whatever. But now that it's somewhere near me, I'm like, I think I might actually go to it. Yeah, I would drive that. A 2-hour drive. And then I'd be like, they don't have Friendlies anymore. I know I rent a car, Ace Spence. I don't have a car anymore. But what I do is because I have family in Pittsburgh. So I used to go to Hershey Park. That was great. But, you always find places on the road to stop. And I used to always try and find a Friendlies when I was little, back in the day. But they don't have Friendlies really anymore. But I'd be like, where's their Friendlies on the way on this trip? Every time I would go to Connecticut and stuff like that. Oh, cool, Hive. I'm sorry to hear about your friend. But, yeah, Hershey, Pennsylvania is an awesome place. iHeart Movies, maybe you're closer to the Dallas location. Brian's near the Dallas location. Stevie, I love the Hershey Park Club. Stevie, you're about 20 minutes from Hershey Park. I haven't been to Hershey Park in a while, but I'd like to go back, actually. I had really fond memories of going there. But yeah, maybe I'll go to Hershey Park and the Netflix house. Let's see how close the Netflix house is to Hershey Park. This is fun. Let's plan my trip. Okay, Hershey Park. It's an hour and 25 minutes. This sounds like a trip to me. This sounds excellent. Okay, I'll have to text my family later and be like, you know what we should do in 2025? Because, you know, I think about a year ago, somebody in my family was like, we should go back to Hershey Park. And we were all like, maybe we should. But we were like, well, under what context? And then now I'm like, why don't we loop in this Netflix house? Here's a picture of it. And go have a great time. Oh, Maria, is the Hershey Spa good? I used to stay at the Hershey Lodge and the Hershey Hotel. When you check in at Hershey Park, I don't know if they still do this. Do they still do this? They gave you a free chocolate bar when you checked in. It was fantastic. Cool Hive. Yeah, Hershey Park Halloween is pretty great. Danny, for those of you who don't know, Hershey Park is in Hershey Kiss is too small, Aubrey. I want a whole chocolate bar. But no, Hershey Park is in Pennsylvania. It's on the way to Pittsburgh. That's how I knew about it growing up. And it's a really adorable. It's like a local theme park, like old school. iHeart Movies. Go to the one in Dallas. Go to the Netflix house in Dallas. You don't need to come over here. Kareem, I never had a Friendly's ice cream cake, but I used to have the sundae. Kay Walton, I think they chose these locations, back to the Netflix house. I think they chose these locations because of probably the malls themselves. I wouldn't be surprised if the malls were owned by the same company. Also that they had empty department stores still. And then also I think, you know, who would they be able to reach and what are the number of people who could get there? Like there are a lot of surrounding states around Dallas that could get there, I think, pretty easily. And then also Pennsylvania, now that this is near Philadelphia, that gets you Philadelphia, New Jersey, and New York, and Connecticut. It's the whole tri-state area. Ho, 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 ho. And that's right, Dakota. These are probably pretty inexpensive because, you know, they're, you know, it's probably lower for the rent there. Kareem, Netflix House is a experience, which will be an interactive experience, which also has photo opportunities, food, and merch for Bridgerton, Money Heist, Stranger Things, and Squid Game. Oh boy! Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Now that I might actually be able to go to it, I'm infinitely more interested in it. All right, does anybody have any questions or comments about this? Jamie, I don't know if they have an online shop. They haven't in the past. Netflix is very spotty in terms of, you know, what they offer. Billy, I think they didn't include Wednesday because there's probably not going to be a new season in 2025. Or maybe it's also which actors can they get to join in. Buck's Basement, I don't think they'll have premiere events there. I mean, Netflix has a lot of money, so they could fly the entire cast to Dallas or the King of Prussia, but I don't know if they would do that. Joey says, how well do you think this will do? I think it'll do well enough that you'll probably need to make a reservation to get in. So I better stay on top of that. But yeah, I think it's going to do extremely well. And typically the way these things work is that you have to buy a ticket to get in. They're kind of expensive. I don't know what the price is yet, Atomsphere. And then also usually they have a front of the line pass, which you can buy, like a VIP ticket, and then you don't have to wait in line. Billy, I hope they do it in the UK as well so that you can go there too. I mean, I think it's a really good idea. I'm sure if it's really, really popular, they'll continue to do it. Danny, I have no idea how much it will cost. You know, I think for like Stranger Things, it was maybe like $30 or $40. Maria says it's just King of Prussia, not the King of Prussia. I'm glad you like my version. Adam Sphere, I believe with the ticket you would probably get access to the whole entire building because it would be too difficult to, to do otherwise. All right, I think we're good to go to the Q&A. All right, so this is the Ask Me Anything portion of today's stream. You can ask me anything for 10 minutes. So it's 3:36. You can ask me anything you'd like until 3:46. Ariel Knight says, why do some demand that T'Challa be recast while protecting roles like Luke and Leia, even Jack Sparrow from being recast? Is it fair or a double standard? I think that the T'Challa situation is obviously complicated by the fact that Chadwick Boseman so tragically passed away and was so popular in the role. I think that is the issue. I still believe that, Marvel gave him a son. I'm sure that son will somehow be aged up through time travel or science. That happens in comics all the time. That's how they aged up Superman's son. He got stuck in like a time-space vortex and came back like a young adult. And I think, they'll do the same thing with T'Challa Jr. And that way they can preserve Chadwick Boseman's legacy. But nobody wants to see any of the Marvel characters recast. I think, Batman gets recast, James Bond gets recast, Superman gets recast. But because Marvel is new and it's telling one continuous story, I think that's maybe one of the reasons that we've discussed before, that they also introduced the multiverse. You can bring over this universe's version of the character. And that's another way they could to do another T'Challa. But I think that that it's very much wanting to be respectful to Chadwick Boseman's legacy. Mika, I loved the Smile 2 trailer. I thought it was fantastic. It made me interested in the movie. And I didn't even see the first Smile, although I heard it was good. I'm not a big horror fan, though. As many of you know. All right, Dwight says, wish more people talked about the final season of the Evil TV show. Well, we see on Movie Math every Sunday, it's doing very well in the ratings, so at least people are watching it. Danny, I do hope to review The Bear Season 3. I'm talking to them about screeners as we speak, actually. They haven't sent them out yet, so I'm still in a holding pattern. It's a little bit early. I'm actually going to email them again tomorrow and be like, what's going on, man? Let's see here. Buck's Basement says, Grace, your thoughts on reports that Netflix is looking to make One Piece a flagship show post Stranger Things, because Airbender and Three Body Problem will conclude with 3 seasons. One Piece did seem very popular. I don't think it was popular to the level of Stranger Things, so I think they need to kind of keep looking. Wednesday was more on the lines of Stranger Things, but Jenna Ortega's not going to want to make Wednesday forever. That's one of the benefits of using very young actors, because they spend their whole childhood making the show. But now Millie Bobby Brown is like, time to leave, everybody. I'm ready to go after this season. But anyway, I think that One Piece is certainly a very popular show and will continue to be, but I do not see it filling in for Stranger Things. Maria, that's very generous of you to gift a membership. Julio says, hi, Grace. Just wanted to say thank you for all you do in keeping us entertained and being positive. My pleasure. Thank you. I'm glad you appreciate it. I really, really want to be positive. I want to be realistic, but I just, like for instance, I hated Peacemaker. I thought it was a piece of crap. But I didn't make a hate video about it every week because I was like, I don't want to hate on it. I don't want to ruin it for other people who do like it. So whatever, although I am curious, they kind of hid the ratings before, but now they can't do that anymore. So we'll see how Peacemaker Season 2 actually does. Just Blaze Disney says, thoughts on Jonathan Groff winning his first Tony Award. I loves me some Jonathan Groff. I'm very happy for him. Although he got more attention for crying when Daniel Radcliffe won his. So that was very nice of him to be so supportive of his friend and co-star. Paul Brunel says, do you think the binge model for The Bear works, or would a weekly model generate more conversation, especially with the celebrity cameos? That's right. Season 2 had amazing celebrity cameos, which, didn't really get the attention you would think because they didn't have a weekly binge, a weekly drop. But I think the binge works for The Bear. I have to tell you, I think people like that show the way it is. And The Bear at this point is so successful. And I bet you I don't know if they're going to make any more. Did they announce a season 4? Those actors are so hot. I think it's going to be hard for them. I think maybe they filmed it back to back. I think they filmed seasons 3 and 4 back to back, and that's probably the end unless they pay them an incredible amount of money. So I think, like, I would not mess with The Bear. It's already won every conceivable award that there is. It's hugely popular. I would just let it go. Let's see here. Who asked that? I haven't seen Despicable Me 4 yet. The review screening will be closer to the release. You know what's surprising? I can't even make the review screening because I have an event, so I have to go the next day. My review for Quiet Place will come out the night that it drops in theaters because the review embargo is actually that morning. And the screening is on Wednesday night, the day before release. That was surprising to me. Oh, Jamie asked that. I thought that A Quiet Place would be very strong and that they would have us watching it early so that we could get the word out. So I found that shocking. All right. iHeartMovie says, who is your favorite Broadway singer? Mr. Hugh Jackman. I love Hugh Jackman. Let's see here. Midnight Eye. One Piece, at least according to the announcement, will not be part of the Netflix House experience. They have, of course, the right to add things, but at announcement, they did not list it as one of the shows that would be spotlighted. Oh, you guys want to smile watch along? Maybe we'll do one closer to release so that I know what's going on. Aurela says, what do you think of Jonathan Groff winning the Tony in the speech? I was so happy for him. I didn't see his speech. I was in House of the Dragon mode and doing other stuff, and getting ready for movie math. That's what I was doing on Sunday night. I was writing movie math. Took so long because I really wanted to get up as soon as possible on Monday. So I didn't see his speech, but I'm glad to hear he knocked it out of the park. Ace Spence says, Grace, would you say that you have a large LGBT audience? You are LGBT, and I feel like I see Grace memes on the LGBT Twitter and Instagram spaces. I think that's very kind of you to say. I do interact a lot with that community, and I always enjoy it. It's always a joy. I see some of those posts as well, and I think they're fantastic. They always put a smile on my face. I think they're very clever. And so I'm honored to be a part of that community, to be a friend of the community. Sebastian Romero says, I adored House of the Dragons episode, but there wasn't a huge banger moment. Do you think this will cause people to wait and watch it as a binge? Yeah, I think that's always a problem. If people aren't going crazy about an episode every week, then there's no reason to rush and watch it. Blood and Cheese should have been that moment. And I think they should have done it the way it was done in the book. I think the book was stronger. Dakota, I have not seen Beverly Hills Cop 4 yet either. They told me the screenings would not be, they weren't last week when I spoke to the PR office, and they said they wouldn't be this week either. So I'm going to check in with them next week. Hey, Vincent, welcome back. CM says, how likely is it there will be an openly LGBT movie star in the future? Well, I think Jonathan Bailey is getting close. And I thought it was unfortunate that people were making an issue out of working out for a role when he did it. I was like, it's a really toxic space out there right now. Lord Baratheon says, Grace, in a stream you did last week, you said that Disney signed a deal with The Rock. And The Rock is them pandering to conservatives. How come that's the case? Well, no, I said I wasn't sure what the situation was. I think The Rock has tried very much to embrace the conservative audience, sometimes a little bit to the detriment of his relationship with the liberal audience. And, you don't know if Disney's doing it just because they want to be in business with The Rock, or if maybe they think it will help them with that audience that they need help with. So I think The Rock is really moving into that space with his NFL team, XFL or whatever, and his work in the wrestling space. And so, but I don't know if he's doing very well with that group or not. So I don't know. That's the question. Michael with no A says, Grace, I joined late, but I think it would be cool if you put your poll questions in the community section so we can respond after live streams. Maybe. I think people like being able to see what the vote is, right? Let's see here. Aubrey says, I love The Acolyte. Me too. Haven't enjoyed Star Wars since Mando Season 1. The response is shocking, but I appreciate your coverage and resilience. Thank you. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about tonight's episode. I mean, I just loved it. The last couple of minutes of the show, I mean, it was exciting in my opinion. Jamie, for House of the Dragons, have I seen other episodes? I just saw episode 2 this morning. Let's see here. MM92 says, hi Grace, just wanted to say how much I appreciate your hard work each week. I can't imagine how much time it takes to professionally create content. Hours! It takes so long. It takes hours. My House of the Dragon edit, not including the time it took to write it or film it or grab the screen grabs, but just to edit it took 3.5 hours, because I really take pride in my craftsmanship. There's a trend where people do a live stream like I'm doing right now. And it's one of the reasons that I moved into the live stream space, because it is easier to do. And, they film it live, just like I'm doing the trailer breakdowns now. And they put in content live, but they usually just film it live and then upload it like a regular video. But I like to go in there and I like to put in all the little flourishes and the references and build out a cool background. And so, but it just takes an incredible amount of time. Let's see here. But it means a lot to me that you enjoy that. Hey, Adam Sphere, thank you for gifting a membership. And Richard says, Grace, love your channel so much. Do you think we're getting Famke in Deadpool 2? I don't want to know until maybe I see her on screen. I want to be really surprised. Let's see here. Stasis says 4-month milestone. Yeah, look at your badge. It looks great. Been here much longer than that, but not as a member. This community has helped me come out of my shell and be more outgoing. Still a work in progress. Wow, what a great thing to hear, Stasis. I just want to also, I hope this may be helpful to you. I think that people don't realize that everybody gets nervous and shy. And the difference is who pushes themselves to just get past it. I get really nervous. I get shy, it's tough, you're you got to rev up and get in the mood, get your space in your head in the zone. And sometimes when there's breaking news, whether you're ready or not, and you just have to push yourself. And so I'm glad, obviously you want to make sure that you're still ultimately comfortable, but I'm really glad that you're getting yourself out there. Blair Wraith says, what do you think about the rumors of George Lucas coming back to reshape Star Wars? I think it'll never happen. I think, the things that people are saying, it's just a lot of really hurtful, horrible comments. Apparently these people don't know who George Lucas is married to. And I think, I saw a really horrible, video, because I was just trying to see what was going on in the conversation out there. And I was like, where are all these trolls coming from? So I wanted to see. And on the comments, I wasn't watching the video, but in the comments, there's a lot of references to a wife. And I was like, what are they talking about? And I saw it, and finally in one of the comments, I realized that the video was making fun of Dave Filoni's wife. And I thought that was really horrific. And so George Lucas has a ton of money. He doesn't need to go back to Star Wars. And I think that why would he do that to himself? And why would he do that to his family and loved ones? I mean, everybody says they want him back now, but the whole reason he left was because of people bullying him. Let's see here. Danny says, hey, Grace, what's your favorite food? Ooh, I don't know. I'm not sure. That's a tough one. Vincent says, what are your thoughts on the episode count for The Last of Us Season 2? I know it's a few less episodes. That doesn't bother me too much. I think that's okay. I think I'm okay with as long as the show is good. Hey Sarah, welcome back from work. That's right, Annika. I think I got it right there. I do like McDonald's chicken nuggets. I also like Purdue chicken nuggets. Those are delicious, and I think a little bit healthier for you. I just had some of those last night actually. I had a little bit of Purdue chicken nuggets, a glass of water. I was like a prisoner who got a little bit of a treat. No, today it's not bread and water, it's chicken nuggets and water. And I was like, oh, thank you. Adam's Fear, I don't have a dog, and I've never had a dog. All right. Oh, I'm over my time. Let me do shout outs. Where are you? What are you doing? Let me say hi. What's up? Where are you? What are you doing? How's it going? Cat Check says, are you a heel or a sneaker gal? I like a wedge heel, but I'm not very good at walking in heels. That's really hard to do. The Delicate Genius says, sitting in the AC, working from my laptop. Oh, I feel that. Well, Ace Spence is working on a research lab listening. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, is Will Smith there with you? Man on the Moon says, can we expect a best of the movies so far by the end of the month? You sure can. I have a whole list of videos that I'll probably make over the 4th of July holiday or right after to do the year now that we'll be halfway through. Danny has the day off in Guatemala. I hope you're enjoying it. Well, Heinz E-Adventures is still at work. Glubby Snot is enjoying a glubtacular afternoon with BTT. Let's see here. Well, CM is relaxing in Dallas, the home of the future Netflix house. Lisa McDougall feels my pain about heels. Yeah, they're really tough to walk in. Also, I had to wear some kind of heels about 2 weeks ago for an event. And I was walking and I was like, boy, I'm really vulnerable in these heels. They're very hard to move in. And it kind of makes me a target because I'm just, I'm not as steady. It would be hard for me to move quickly. And I got a little nervous about it. I didn't like that. Let's see here. Blair Wraith says, what's up? Trucking along in Odessa, Texas. Oh, toot toot, Blair. That's right. You're a trucker. I didn't remember that. That's awesome. Mandito Jr. says, playing Fortnite and listening to your wonderful stream. Aww. Let's see here. J. Scott Garraby says, instead of piracy, you can call it the Jolly Roger, used as a verb. Interesting. Maria is a teacher on summer break already. Sweet freedom, Maria. I know sometimes teachers work during the summer, but I'm sure it's nice not to have any classes. That's awesome, Maria. Let's see here. Mish says, today was my first day at my new job. Really feel happy about after such a long time of imbalance. I'm so glad that it's working out and you're having a great time. Daniel is going to Pride Night at Disneyland tonight. Oh, you're going to have a very good time. Their events are fantastic. Chico says, I'm currently in line for the grand opening of Krispy Kreme, trying to decide what to get after waiting in line for almost 3 hours. Wow, that's incredible. I hope you treat yourself. You certainly earned a donut with that waiting time. And the Platinum Diva says, recovering from a trip to Knott's Berry Farm in Disneyland over the weekend. I know you love roller coasters, Platinum Diva. Sounds like you had a great time. Andrew Merrick says, thank you for keeping me company on my lunch break. Oh, it's my pleasure, Andrew. I hope you had a nice time. And Adam Sphere is walking his dog right now. Well, let's see here. iHeartMovie says, I'm in Ohio trying to kill time before The Acolyte tonight. Oh, I would try and watch The Acolyte live if you can, because those last few minutes are really incredible, and I think you're going to want to experience them in that moment. Oh, let's see here. Kay Walton says, making my Juneteenth plans, and we'll be seeing Bad Boys Ride or Die in Houston. That's a great choice. That's right. It's Juneteenth tomorrow. I'm going to watch, the trailer. The editor on the trailer for the Black Barbie documentary on Netflix tweeted me such a nice tweet yesterday because I'd mentioned the show in his trailer on Movie Math. And so I'm going to watch that tomorrow evening. That's going to be what I watch tomorrow night, the Black Barbie documentary for Juneteenth, and in honor of that BTT viewer. Hey, Diego in Mexico. And Keith's going to go to a friend's house to watch The Acolyte. Well, Targaryen Poppy says, just graduated from the American Airlines Flight Attendant School in Dallas. Out of my study buddy and fellow BTT viewer, Daniel, who also graduated with me today. Hey, Daniel. Hey, guys. Congrats on graduating. That's going to be very exciting. You're going to be in the flying the friendly skies. I love it. I'm sure you look very sharp in your uniforms. Evan Moore says, getting ready for a date tonight. Hello from Pittsburgh. Oh, I love Pittsburgh. As you know, I have family there. Oh, have a great time, Evan. Are you going down to the waterfront or the south side? I hope your date goes really well. You can tell him or her that everybody on the stream was rooting for you guys to have a good time tonight. Let's see here. And Ivan Mendoza says, I'm going to get a gelato cake for your 32nd birthday. Oh, wow. I've never heard of a gelato cake specifically. I'm intrigued. Oh, Atmosphere. Black Barbie plays on the Netflix. On the Netflix. CM says, Grace, any cozy chick flick recommendations? The Devil Wears Prada is a great rewatch. I watched that a couple of months ago. I love that. I think that's a good chick flick. And then Keith says, I recently found out my coworker Saturn is also a fan of yours. She said you're hilarious. Ah, yay! Tell Saturn I said hi. And that was very nice. I'm glad she feels that way. All right, I better get going. I got to work on my Acolyte breakdown and stuff. So I'll see you later tonight. When the show is over, come back over here and we will talk about it. All right, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow. We'll do a Juneteenth live stream. Okay, everybody, bye. Bye-bye.